I am going to show you a quick potato salad, very quick and simple, based on a recipe that I had when I had lunch with Oprah a couple of weeks ago. And yes, I did have lunch with Oprah in Chicago. I was very fortunate to be able to go over with 5 other South Africans as part of an old mutual O magazine. Went over with the prize winners of a road show that we did in May this year, and we attended one of Oprah's shows, and while we were having our photograph taken with her, she invited us for lunch the next day and to come to her show again. And at this lunch there were a couple of other South Africans, and we had lunch with her, which was very nicely done. We had a rocket salad with goat's milk feta on it. It was just a pile of rocket or arugula. And on top of that, as I said, just cubes of goat salad. That was one of them. And of course there was southern fried chicken, which I know apparently is one of Oprah's absolute favorites. Her personal chef prepared the meals for us in a private dining room, and we had a brown rice and greens type of hot, it's like a hot salad. And then we had a potato salad made with different color potatoes. It was made with the red potatoes and the sort of bluer color and the white potatoes. And she'd put in diced pineapples. Now, if you're following the natural way, and you've read my book, The Natural Way, you know that from a digestive point of view, it's not really compatible to eat pineapples with potatoes, because the acidity in the pineapple as it's being digested tends to cancel out the enzymes that started digesting the potatoes in your saliva while you were chewing. So it's not a great combination if you want your stomach to be comfortable and you're trying to avoid indigestion and you're trying to avoid bloating and flatulence. And then it just had some celery in it and a homemade mayonnaise. Now you can make any homemade mayonnaise. I suggest you use organic eggs when you make it, cold pressed olive oil, and we can do mayonnaises on another time. In fact, I've got some lovely almondaise which you can make from my recipe books 1 and 2. You can get the recipe books. There's a lovely mayonnaise made with almonds, and you can also do the same thing with cashew nuts. Replace the almonds with the cashew nuts. There are a couple of others. You can use tofu as a mayonnaise base. You can use, there are a variety. But what I'm going to be using today is our own Mayonnaise salad dressing, and this is available at stores right throughout South Africa, retail outlets from health shops to supermarkets. And if your supermarket doesn't stock it, just nag them until they do. Alright, so our dressing is not only made with cold pressed extra virgin olive oil, but it is also, instead of sweetening it with sugar, which is what most mayonnaises, most people when they make mayonnaise use refined sugar. You can use fructose when you want to, but I prefer using honey, and we've added to this as our raw honey basically, and non-irradiated herbs and spices, so it's completely natural, and it's thickened with a vegetable-based sweetener, and which is basically made from rice, so it's gluten-free as well. And really what I did was, instead of boiling the potatoes, I just simmered them in about that much water in a large pot, and I've got a combination of sweet potatoes, or as the Americans would say, well sorry, these aren't the sweet potatoes, these are the potatoes. I didn't watch my pot and it caught at the bottom, so that's my own fault. But it's not going to affect the flavor of the salad. And you can make this with cold potatoes, or you can make it with warm potatoes, depending on what the weather's like and depending on what you prefer. I quite like it at room temperature, but a lot of people really like this chilled. Now, instead of the pineapples, I'm taking it out. I'm going to add the celery, of course. But to give it a bit of a lift, what I'm going to do is add our mayonnaise, and then I'm going to add that chili pesto that we made previously. Now, if you check out, I think it's on DVD 1 or 2. We make the chili pesto from scratch. I'm not going to spend too much time. I am going to make a fresh batch for you today, and I'm going to mix that in with the mayonnaise as I toss that. So what we need to do is just literally is dice these potatoes. I like to leave the skins on. Of course, if the skins are very thick and coarse and they're a little bit burnt underneath like I caught them here, you may want to remove a little bit of the skin, but it's not too bad on the rest of them. The sweet potatoes, of course, I find a lot easier to digest than the potato itself, but they're also a lot more nutritious than potatoes. They are much higher in beta carotene, which, as I've already mentioned, is a wonderful natural powerful vitamin, not only vitamin but also antioxidant that slows down the aging process and also helps to boost your immune system. And so it's a good idea to include some of these foods naturally high in these antioxidants on a daily basis. The reason that I leave the skins on is a lot of the nutrients that are in vegetables and fruit often just sit right underneath the skin. And not only that, but the skin provides us with a wonderful source of fiber. So if you really don't like the skins, you can remove them, but I prefer them. I find it actually tastes nice. I even make mashed potatoes with the skins on, and gives it a much better flavor. Let me layer some celery. Celery, of course, the darker the celery is in color, the more nutritious it is. And I like to include the leaves with celery. Of course, if they're a little bit limp, or if we say in Afrikaans verlep, such a nice word that. Then take the leaves off. I mean, you don't have to include the leaves, but I like them. They give it a real, a lovely salty flavor. Celery, by the way, is one of the most alkaline foods. Like all dark green leafy vegetables, particularly the leaves, are one of the most alkaline forming foods in the body. So great if you are wanting to correct or increase the amount of alkaline forming foods in your body. Lovely and crunchy, very high in minerals, particularly high in natural sodium. So it has a natural salty flavor. So when you add it to recipes, you find you can actually add less salt. And because it's in the right form, your body can deal with it more efficiently. It's a very refreshing ingredient, I find, to use in almost any salad or casserole that you make. And I'm layering this like this specifically because if you just throw it all in and you've got all the potatoes bunched up in one corner and the celery in another, and then you start mixing it, because the potatoes are soft, particularly if it's still warm like it is now, it tends to go a bit mushy, and I really don't like, you're going to end up with a mashed potato salad instead of just a potato salad. What is nice about making it when it's warm like this, or still quite, well, certainly not room temperature, is that you find the potatoes really absorb all the flavors beautifully. And this creamy dressing that we make, it contains no egg. So for those of you that are trying to avoid egg for whatever reason, or don't like eggs, you certainly don't have to eat them. But if you're going to eat eggs, I'm using an entire bottle on this particular salad. But make it when it's warm like this. It really kind of absorbs all the flavors of the dressing so beautifully. And now you could just literally leave that like it is. Put a little bit more chopped celery on top. You could just do that, and that could be the end of the salad. And it's that simple. Of course, your potatoes, a lot of people poor potatoes are so badly maligned these days. Everybody says they're high in glycemic index, but when they measure the glycemic index of food, they measure you eating it and getting 50 grams of carbohydrates. You'd have to eat a huge plate full of potatoes that are just boiled with nothing on it. The minute you combine it with celery and with sweet potato and with the oil in the dressing, it slows down the absorption of the glucose, and it's no longer a high glycemic index food. I don't know anybody who eats plates of just boiled or plain baked potatoes, unless of course it's a starving person.